start in the wonderful home of our good friend Axel, who is living in a tower with a wizard who found him along the way. We will open up. We actually see a conversation between two folks by a fireplace, a dwarf and a human, and there's things happening in the background, but maybe a crash off screen, something along those lines. For anyone who's a cat owner, you might get an idea of that there could be, there's someone else in the house. As Axel is at Tabaxi, there's always seems to be some kind of strange noises coming from elsewhere around Gorm's Tower. Loud voice.
I'll just say that he's glad it's a crash because it could have been an explosion.
Very good. And so, with that, the loud voice booms out. Axel, come in here, my boy. It's time for you to get your journey underway.
You hear a scrabbling, another crash. Axel bursts into the room. Journey? His eyes wide. It's like he's got the little excited, fluffy tail. Wait, can I get him going on Journey?
Well, you've heard me speak of the Eternal Keepers before, yes? Well, this is my friend Jeffrey. He could point you in the way of them if he so chooses.
I'm ready for a journey. Finally.
At that point,
he sort of runs up, sits down, like at the feet of Jeffrey. He's on the ground because he doesn't really need a seat. So,
my excited one. So, Axel, I hear you're from the Wandering Pride, but I know tragedy struck them early on. Do you remember or know anything of your parents' pride and clan?
He sort of looks down for a moment and is very quiet, surprisingly quiet. His tail stops moving. He looks up and he seems to be thinking for a moment. One. Yeah, mother was Jade Whisper. That is all right. And he looks down again.
I understand. But you should know, the Wandering Pride was a great friend of the Eternal Keepers. We ourselves search out the mysteries of the world much as your pride did, as they traveled around off the beaten path. They often were our first scouts to know where the secrets and mysteries of this world would lie. It was a tragic day for the Eternal Keepers as well, when we heard of what had happened to their caravan and to the slaughter that befell them. As you being the heir to their pride, it could be that you will find a great many who would be happy to hear that the pride's bloodline lives on in you, and welcome you very easily into the Eternal Keepers. But know also, much would be expected of you. The Wandering Pride was an honored group, privy to some of the greatest secrets of the realm. And for you, having not grown up with them or as a part of them, there would be questions. There would be many who would always be wanting to test you and prove you to see if you were worthy of the title to become a part of the Eternal Keepers here on the western part of the continent. He just sort of looks at you closely, kind of trying to size you up a bit.
Axel's like, he was listening in like, oh, yes, I will do that. I will find my family. Pauses like something like that. and I will do the exploring. I really want to do the exploring. I want to be finding all the things, and I will. Yes, I will. I want to help. I want to help.
Well, you must then know this is how it all begins. It's how it begins for all of the keepers. There are trials, many trials, depending on the person and the place and the time. But the first trial is always the same. You have to find them, and you have to impress them.
And you're not one, I guess.
Not anymore.
No.
And
Then
I'm
I'll
not the...
find them. I can do that.
I'm not
do
the-
that. And it looks to Grom and it's like, can I go?
Your first step is to seek out a crossroads where much knowledge will flow, and just listen to the whispers. Find those things that are out of the ordinary. See everything you can. Remember, some of the greatest secrets are hidden in plain sight. And with that, Grom does nod to you, and he goes, I wouldn't have called you in if I didn't expect you to go. Not that I could hold you back after Jeffrey being so melodramatic.
Sorry. Just so apologizes, like uncertainly to go. But I really want to go. I'll go find crossroads. I'll listen. I'm very good at it.
Grom's used to this. I know, my boy. I know. I've packed you a pack. Just gather any of your other belongings you might want. There's plenty of rations in there. And I've placed a map in there as well to help get you at least out of our woods here and on your way.
Thank you. He goes to stand and then pauses. He's like, and he sits back down and it's like, he waits a little bit. Is there more? Anything else?
No. It's all
He's
you.
up on
It's
his
your
feet,
journey
out
now,
of
my
the
boy.
room immediately. You hear some scrambling.
You hear like a lantern, a table fall over.
You hear a lot of crashing, and it sounds like he's in his room and he is scrabbling and grabbing everything he wants. And you hear it's basically the sound of a small amount of chaos. Yeah.
So you get all your stuff gathered, and as you start to head out the front door, you do notice there's a pack there. It seems to have some fairly good set of rations, and on top there is a small scrap of paper rolled up and tied as a parchment would be tied.
At this moment, he's actually got his sort of get up ready, which is he's got like bandoliers and belts that are covered in little component pouches. He's just got like a bandolier of them, and some things that aren't even in the pouches are just hanging off on like pieces of string or on little hooks. And so this is basically all his little gathered components, things that he's found and kept. And then, of course, on his belt, he's also got what looks to be a water skin, except it's actually like a scroll container, so it's a long circular thing, and that's, of course, the watertight spell component. So he goes for the pack. He's gone out. You just said he went outside, right?
Well, no, he's just headed towards the door, and basically Grom has left this pack with the piece of parchment wrapped up, right by the door, mainly so he knows that you won't forget it. You have to trip over it on your way out, sort of is the idea.
So it goes up, and he grabs the map, and he looks over, and he spends a little bit of time just going over it and actually memorizing what's on there to the best of his ability. He's actually quite good at that, surprisingly. He is a wizard, so he has learned the skills of memorizing that.
Yeah. So, as you look at the map, basically what it is, it's really actually a small scrap of what was probably once a much larger map. In fact, you're kind of familiar with this because one of the things that Grom does, as he updates a map, as new areas are found, etc., basically he slices out the old area, whatever he has his new piece, and, through magical means and whatever, puts the new piece in, and kind of sets aside the other little scraps, first thing to hand out if he needs to have old reference, whatever. As you look at it, you see where Gorm is marked marked a very clear path, basically from his tower, almost straight eastward over to a big, large road. You see an arrow pointing north, which would be Anvil Forge, and Stone Anvil north, and Sojourn's Crossing to the south. What's interesting, and again, you're somewhat used to this because you've helped him with his maps before. Off the path, just to the south of the way you're going, there's an area called Shimmerfall Glade. And you see there's a small symbol in the shape of what looks almost like a little tombstone that, tell you what, do me a investigation check. I'm assuming that you absolutely would look closer.
Yeah, he's poring over the entire map.
So yeah, with a 20, you absolutely. What you see is a little tombstone mark that is still pretty clear. Next to it, you see the area. It's been tried to be erased, but you can hold it up to the light and you can sort of do all the fun things you can do to see what something said, and you can see what's in very precise Gorm's handwriting, the Vault of the Pious Paladin. And you can see where, even before it was erased, it was first scratched through. You had a strike through on it. Video Store Cowboy, thank you for joining us. And welcome to... See, it just saying the Fortress of Squalitude works so well right there, but it's such not a D&D name. Anyway. Anyway, has been struck through, has been erased, but you can see absolutely that... a little bit to the south of the path that he has marked, there is this glade, and inside of it, an area that's been erased off, stricken through, but then erased by your mentor, sort of your guardian, Gorm.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he looked at this. He memorizes pretty much the path. He focuses on that, looks around, and now he starts looking for other things that might be hidden, in the same way that the text was, where it was, kind of erased and not very obvious. I presume he doesn't necessarily find anything else.
Doesn't find anything else. Do me an insight check, though.
Yeah. Not trained.
16, and actually, and with the advantage, natural 20. Since I'll throw you the bone on this one. Gorm has magical means of erasing things, like completely erasing things, like as though they didn't exist. He used an eraser on this.
Yeah. So
That's
okay.
All I have to say about that.
He grins, actually grins widely, and he rolls it up and puts it in the watertight container, which has all these loose pages in them that are his spell book. These are spell pages that he's written up himself, that he's either been taught or learned. And so he puts it in there, safely. He doesn't scratch it, mess it up, and ties it up. And then he goes to grab the bag, turns around, and dashes back into the room with Jeffrey and Gorm. And he basically glomps Gorm and just gives him a big hug. He's like, thank you, Gorm.
My boy.
And he just grabs him big, he doesn't quite cry, but he's quite, it's emotional for him. It's like, he's leaving home, but he's leaving Gorm. He's taking care of him all this time.
Yeah, Gorm's a little choked up and just goes, my boy. And he sort of noogies your head, and... It's time for you. This place has grown too small for you. The world is now your home. But
I want to see the world.
Never forget your roots. They'll always be here for you.
I'll come
now
back.
Get out of here. Go along.
And I'll come back one day. And as he says that, he sort of dashes out. He actually goes onto all fours for when he's making like these dashes. He just goes on all fours, runs, grabs the bag. And then he struggles to get on his back because he's got all these, attached things. So that the thing gets caught on his belt and he has to rearrange. So it takes a little long, and he's out the door and running out into the forest. And I presume this sort of path that leads to the tower that he's used before.
Yes.
So yeah, he goes the familiar route.